So I would like to call to order the Sanborn Regional School District Policy Meeting. It is October 6th at 5:10.
Can I say before we start, whatever we get through is fine. We don't have to do every one of these tonight. I just wanted to give us.
That was marked as a priority, I think, so.
Yeah,
I don't remember which one that was, but.
but like I said, we're probably gonna need another meeting, just for the record. That there's so many more that we had, and I'm gonna work on them a lot next Monday and Tuesday and try to get you a big list of everything. And then we can break it out and go through them. There's a lot of legal updates this year. And so until we get those done, everything else has to be on hold because they need to be done.
So we are all here in person. We do not need to do a roll call. So Matt, you would like to start?
Can I move the minute? I'll move the
Oh,
minutes
sorry.
from the
Yes.
last meeting.
Thank you.
I'll second.
All in favor? Matt, policy DAF.
Yep, so policy DAF deals with the administration of federal grants. Basically, this is a regurgitation of a federal statute that's commonly known as the Uniform Grant Guidance. I'm just going to quickly go over just the bullet points of this particular policy. First thing, it deals with the allowability of expenditures towards each grant program. The second one deals with cash management and fund control of the grant, the federal money that we receive. The next two deal with procurement, such as micro purchasing, when we have to go out to formal bids and so on. The next one is conflict of interest and mandatory disclosures. The next one is inventory management of equipment and supplies that we purchase using federal funds. The next one is travel reimbursements using federal funds. Accountability and certifications for federal funds, so making sure that we are accounting for them properly in our accounting system and so on. The next one deals with time and effort for reporting. So time and effort is payroll reporting. We got to make sure that we are capturing the effort that employees are putting to grants, and we also need to get semi-annual certifications from each of the employees that work on the federal programs. The next one deals with grant budget reconciliations. That's reconciling our system with the state reporting system and also our own grant tracking reporting system internally. And finally, subrecipient monitoring and management. So basically, if we have a grant where we have to pass through funds to another entity, we have to monitor them. Okay. Any questions? Yes.
Is this a new policy or are we revising an existing policy?
This is revising the existing policy.
And the reasons for the revision?
There's quite a few items in here that are required by statute. The one that struck me is that it specifically excludes purchases for three specific companies. And those are in the federal regulations. We need to specify them in our policy. There's more revisions than just that. That's just an example.
Mm-hmm.
But it's to comply with federal law.
If there's a spelling thing there's a spelling thing being caught here somewhere. Benefited, which is used, I guess. So just change it.
Other questions in regards to this? Do we need a motion for first and second read?
I think first read, normal process is fine, just as long as we get it done in 2 meetings and we don't drag it into oblivion, you know what I mean? Like it can't go out into December or anything. So if we do the first read on the 20th and then the November board meeting, one of the two will be fine, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, even this is a substantial step.
Yeah. Okay.
Move for first read. Move to send this to the board for first read. Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Angel.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So the next policy to review is policy GBCD, school board elections.
can ask questions and I'll try to answer them, and if I can't, I will get,
Questions on this one?
I
Yep.
do too. I have a lot of questions.
Okay, well, you start.
No, I mean, I'm sure the same. I just wasn't sure why. What about this was necessary to do? Why are we no longer putting a number of board members in here? Why are we taking out a lot of that and generalizing it?
yeah,
If that's my main question.
I will be happy to ask Will that.
Okay.
I don't know why.
Did this language come from?
And all the language came from NHSBA. They sent us a massive policy update. I asked Phyllis to take their recommendations and do the process that we always do, strike out whatever would be removed, bold what's added, right? And that's what this process is all about, is talking these things through. And it may be that we get answers and you guys say, nah, we don't want to change that. It's fine,
Right.
right? I'm not a salesperson for the policy changes. I'm just a go-between caller guy that gets all the info and gives it to you.
Right.
So sometimes there are things that are gray, like Matt called the NHSBA and rewrote almost a whole section of that policy, and Will was so happy with it, he actually is gonna probably put it in the future policy.
The one that we just.
Yeah, because Matt knows a lot about that stuff, and he just called Will and said, it might be better if you do X, Y, and Z, and Will said, oh, that's a good idea. I mean, it's policy's constant, right? You can, but some of it is law-based and some of it's just recommended,
Well,
right?
I'm wondering if, because every school district has a different number of members, that's why they just put odd, but we
It-
could specify.
Yeah.
You know, back to the
Yeah,
7.
that's what I would like to do that too, assuming there's no legal reason why we can't, and I would like to put back the sentence, the 7th member shall be elected at large. Or maybe the whole sentence about each pre-existing district shall be entitled to 3 members.
That is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
I don't even need to ask Will. I really think that this, I mean, you guys can propose it. Let me just, I've got to find the folder myself. I know I shared it with you, but
So you emailed it on September 30th.
thank you.
So do we want to add comments to it?
Yeah, go ahead. Help me
So,
out here.
so the
Go
school
for it.
board shall consist of 7 members instead of odd.
Yep, that's fine.
Is that what?
Yes.
Okay.
And the sentences that were stricken above, I personally would recommend adding back in each pre-existing district shall be entitled to 3 members. The 7th member shall be elected at large.
And I agree, that's what we do, so that's
Right.
perfectly fine, that's local language.
Yeah.
We don't have to run that by Will.
So please add this. Back in, move it to the, move it below the first new paragraph. That makes sense?
Yes.
So we would take that first line that was there shall be 7 members. Each pre-existing 3 members, and then that will go, the school board shall consist of 7 members elected by the qualified voters of the district at the annual district election. Each pre-existing district should be entitled to 3 members, the 7th member shall be elected at large.
I'm also wondering if that may be a statute thing, but up above where this sentence was stricken to say the newly elected officers shall take office at the board meeting immediately following the tabulation and validation of official balloting by the town clerks. That may be in statute, so it may not be necessary, but it's kind of
Nice to have it just written there.
to clarify.
I'll tell you, I don't have any problems leaving that there. I don't think you're gonna hurt anything by leaving it there. Again, Phyllis just did this one so I have the ad, this is the process. Phyllis does what I just described. Then the admins read them and add comments. And I had so many of them, I just went through and read the admin comments because I wanted to address their problems. So totally fine, in my opinion, to just leave that in there. I could double check with Will just to be sure on that one because there might be a statutory, but I would think that if ours is more restrictive than the statutory requirement, then we're fine anyway.
All right, so you want to add the newly elected office, that back in?
Add that back in.
Okay.
As we're not really voting, but is everyone okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Just like to check in. Tammy and I have done so many of these here, I can almost read her mind, and she, or much, it's getting more scary, you could probably read my mind. I wouldn't want that for anyone.
Those are all my comments
I agree with all
on this one.
Okay,
Okay,
so would we like to make a motion to move it to first read?
Yeah, do we need to also have those checked?
I don't think we do, I think they're
Okay.
fine.
Fine.
Yeah, I'm willing to just do it, and what we'll do is we can move it to first read. I can check in with Will, and if there's a problem, I'll let you know.
Perfect.
I don't want to slow things down for small.
I move that we bring this to the board for first read.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. The next policy is 3.2. Oh, sorry. Agenda number 3.2, BBC board member resignation.
Well, this is certainly much more descriptive than what we had. I actually liked having some definition around resignations. They seem to happen more often than you would think. So it was, I liked, that was good.
You like the definition?
To,
Yeah,
process
and it's very clear that, you know, it's not a just show up and
and
try it out and then.
Or stop showing up. That happened-
Yeah.
That happened not during our term, but that has happened in the past where
Yeah.
some board members stopped showing up. Nobody knew what was going on.
Being new, I liked it. I felt it was very clear cut.
Yes.
And I knew, like, not that I want to resign, but I know what like the process is.
Right.
Hmm.
And what the clear expectations are. So, yeah, I like this one as well. I didn't really see anything that I wanted to modify.
I also really liked, because I don't think we've been really following this practice, paragraph B, board acknowledgement, that the board, is this the one where?
Yeah,
Yes.
That's actually in the minutes,
Yeah,
you know, I don't think, it's nice for the public, because the public oftentimes seems confused.
Yes,
Oh, did so-and-so resign?
Right, yeah.
Because we
No, I
didn't
think
talk
that's-
about it, so
yeah.
I like that.
I think that's good too.
and I like there was like an effective date.
Yes.
Like it was, it's almost like, you know, you're resigning from your position at work.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like formality to it.
Yeah.
Do we feel any changes need to be made? Would this be?
Yeah, go to the board. When you guys are ready, just
I'll
move it and approve it.
To send it to the board for first read.
Feels good to be getting some of these done again. Last year was so hard to.
All in favor? Okay, we'll move it. Tom, quick question. I tried to save the first one that we made the changes to, and it won't let me save it.
You don't have to, it does it automatically.
Well, it keeps yelling at me saying if I close it, save it, changes won't be saved.
Uh-oh, refresh, let me see if I can see.
I just want to see if.
Was that BDB?
Yes, so if you can see the changes. Just, I don't want to close it and lose it.
Mine keeps yelling at me every time I open one saying Google Docs offline crying. Missing or saving.
I can see where it says add this sentence back in, but I can't see, did you remove the strikeout? Because I can do that.
No.
Okay, yeah, I can see your comments. Add this sentence back in, and please add the strike sentence back in, move it below the first new paragraph.
Okay, all right, well then I can.
So I can see that.
Okay, all right. Okey-dokey. So the next we are going to look at is BBBE, vacancies and unexpired term fulfillment.
I have two questions on this one.
Okay,
So I was very interested in, I have to find it now, the language. under authority to fill vacancy, number 1, vacancy on school board. And it says they will be filled by remaining school board members representing the same town or towns. And then it specifically says at-large seats and members are considered to be representatives of the same town or towns. Now, there's been no statutory change to that particular.
Right, and you and I went through
RSA.
this like awful the first 2 years, Tammy.
The at-large member, the statute's not clear. And as an at-large member, of course, I'm particularly interested in this. I've never been able to participate, and we've said pretty much the same thing to the budget committee, that the at-large member does not participate in filling vacancies. Based on the interpretation of the statute, the way it's written. So I'm trying to figure out what, who wrote this, and it doesn't, I mean, it certainly looks like it means that the at-large member could participate, but I'm not, like that,
That is not my understanding either,
Nothing
and
has changed, so-
yeah, it doesn't read well, I'll just help out a little, so I did all the homework on this, and Tammy brings up a really good point, because we had an opening, and we had,
multiple openings.
yeah, we had an opening on the school board twice, we had an opening on the BudCom, I think, once, since I've been here,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's way more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
More
few,
than 2, but
yeah, there might have been more than 2,
there's definitely been more than 2.
okay, because I knew that Sheila and Karen.
Sheila and Taryn and Charlie, Pam, when she resigned.
Oh, that's right, there was a third one, yeah, so the gist of it was that Will and our attorney said that the at-large member does not participate because they represent the whole district, not one community. So I just put a note, I'll call Will and clarify this, and I'm happy to straighten it out, but it's hard because there are different interpretations of law, and different sides to the coin on this issue. I agree with you, it needs to be clarified.
Yeah, this is not very clear. I mean, I guess I'm assuming that what this means is that the school board, because what usually happens if the at-large member resigns, because that has happened a couple times prior to our tenure here, but the entire school board fills that vacancy.
Oh, they do, okay,
Yes.
I didn't know that, I've never had to figure that one out.
Yes.
Yep. All right,
So I'm assuming that's what that means, but I would like clarification because
Yep.
if we're gonna let the at-large fill vacancies, I would certainly be in support of that, but it's not my understanding that that's the interpretation.
No, because when I applied, like for Pam's, when I did that, the interview for Pam's seat, it was only Jim.
Right.
right, and it's the way that, in the second part of this, I read as being consistent with what we've done. Because I know that if there are less than 2 members left in a co-op, that's a problem. There have to be 2 people to choose a third person. And I knew that that was an issue, because I think there are some boards that are 5 people with 1 at-large. So you could have 2 people,
Okay.
you could have 2 people from one town and 2 from the other, and then 1 at-large. And if one of the 2 resigns, then that, I think the person that's at-large can
Oh,
make the second person. That's what I thought this meant, but I'm not, now I'm not sure, Tammy, I'll call. It's fine, we'll clarify.
I guess for me, like, if that is the law, that should be written that way.
Well, what we can do is I'll work with Will and we'll craft this for our district.
I was gonna say.
Because our district, this is generic language, and our district has 7 members, 1 at large, 3. The time that I would see this being an issue for Sanborn is if 2 people from one town resign simultaneously. Then I think what would happen, and I don't have to ask him, the at-large and the remaining member from that town would then come together as a
Yeah,
dyad.
that's what it
and choose the
seems
other
to,
person.
that's how it seems to read.
But I'm not sure. What a
Yeah.
mess.
Yeah, I mean, I looked up RSA 671:33, blah, blah, there, that was referenced just to make sure that it hasn't changed. And it doesn't, it says, the first sentence is in the law, but then where it says at-large seats, it doesn't address at-large seats. In there, at least I didn't see that it did, so unfortunately,
I'll be
I
happy
would
to do
like it
some
if
more.
it did.
Yeah, I would do some more homework on this for you. I'm happy to.
And my other question was kind of around that, but it's more, we have included a whole section on budget committee vacancies here.
Yep.
Do we have jurisdiction over the budget
I was
committee?
gonna say,
Great question.
it feels like that needs to be a whole separate
This one isn't getting done tonight.
I mean, in
No.
district policy, I feel like the budget, as I understand the budget hierarchy, the budget committee sits outside. I mean, it's not completely outside because it's part of the
It
district.
is,
But they're their own committee.
they are their own committee, but they are pulled into certain school board policies, but I need to ask this question.
Hmm.
Right, they still are a part of the school district. But I don't know where that line is, Tammy. It's a great
I'm not
question.
sure either. And the same section is there about at-large seats, and there's been, all kinds of issues with
Oh,
the same issues over there on the budget
were you
committee.
here for that? Did you see how that happened? It was quite.
Well, they have traditionally included the at-large seat.
Right,
They have interpreted the law in a different way. And again, they're not necessarily under our jurisdiction, so their at-large member has typically been participated in filling vacancies, and that just was raised as an issue
recently.
most recently, and they decided to revote just the two members.
Oh, I do remember that, yep.
That's back.
Maura
when-
would remember
that's-
that, she was one of them. I think.
Yeah, that's back when like normal stuff that was a big deal really was a big deal, and now with everything I've gone through this last year.
Would that be the same for the moderator? Do we have jurisdiction over the monitor?
I think that's addressed in here.
There are some, where is that? Which part?
Moderator vacancy, says vacancies in the office of moderator shall be filled by vote at a school meeting, or election,
Okay,
a school meeting.
They would never put this in here if it wasn't, but I'll ask because I'm gonna call anyway.
okay,
Number 3,
yes.
And
Yep,
at
I
a
might as well
school
ask, it's
Meeting
fine.
or election, provided that until a replacement shows on the school district clerk. So it looks to me like if the moderator resigns, then the district clerk serves as moderator
I think it would be Phyllis.
until the next election.
Is it Phyllis that's the district? No, who's the district?
So, yeah, it just
Yeah.
says the entire school board shall fill vacancies occurring in other district offices except that of the budget committee.
Right, or
So,
moderator.
yeah, so I mean.
All right, let's table this one and keep
Yeah,
going.
I think we need
All right, so
to-
Is that
any questions?
I'll get some
or
answers, I'll give you a buzz.
We'd like, any more questions, or do we want to table?
I think we should table until I get more homework from Will. If you think of anything else, call me or email me,
Mhm.
just so we can keep going with other ones.
Okay. So, our next one is policy GBC, non-public sessions. Any questions?
I thought this was good to just get a new, fresh policy,
Non-public sessions are pretty locked down by
Yeah.
statute. so-
super straight.
Yeah,
But I like the language better personally, but I
Yeah.
don't usually speak about that, but in this one, I kind of liked it.
So no questions or concerns? Would we like to-
Did you catch that last paragraph? You're supposed to obtain and provide copies of the NIHSBA's non-public session checklist. I don't know.
Okay. I'll get those for you. Thanks for catching it.
Well,
I know, I saw that too.
Can we take that out? Because I'm never gonna remember to do that.
Probably not.
All right, all right, all
it's
right.
interesting that it has to be the NHSBA's non-public session checklist. There are others. The Municipal
Yeah.
Association has one, so.
Yeah, they
Tell
probably,
Rose.
well, yeah, they probably want you to have the one that's been, if there are any updates, they probably update it. You know, if there are
I'm
any
sure the
changes.
I'm sure the New Hampshire
Yeah.
Municipal Association does
Yeah.
as well, but I'm sure, obviously, NHSBA wrote this, so.
Great. I'll have to remember that.
Should we move this or are we doing anything with this or?
I'm putting a note to Phyllis to say, put this in the calendar so we don't forget to do it.
Oh, yeah.
If I didn't have her, I'd die. So,
Are we moving this? So we can move this one or I'm just gonna hold it on. I'll move this for first, send the board for first read.
Second, Dawn second. All in favor?
can I put a smiley face in here? I don't know how to do that.
I'm looking at me.
I assigned it to Phyllis. She loves it when I do that.
I'm
Sure she does.
Let's just say at Christmas time, I take really good care of Phyllis. The holidays, to be politically correct.
Our next policy is BEDG, minutes.
Minutes. This was kind of similar for me. Did you guys see anything? I mean, I thought I just kind of clarified.
Minutes are also pretty, there's.
I like the
by
language.
statute. so-
Yeah, I like the language better though.
Yeah, I agree. Yes.
It was clear. It
Yes.
clearly had not been updated in a long time.
Yeah, it's
That was
nice
kind of
that
a
you don't
pun, I was
have to
trying to get a little
put every
policy
single
behind
little thing.
The old policies are kind of.
It's the meat of what happened.
Yeah,
Mhm.
That's where they're going.
yeah, and that's super good for Phyllis because,
Oh,
and I know we're on camera, but Phyllis is so, wants to please our team so much and she really appreciates.
Very detail
She
oriented.
is so.
Well,
Yeah.
I've had to basically, use a lever to get her to not write everything that everyone says verbatim. That's not what minutes are supposed to be.
Right.
And she feels like she does have to do that, so
Will you make sure
when we
she-
adopt this, Tammy, can you tell her that we discussed that? Because it will help me to help her to just know that it's okay. And she's so good at what she does, but I just need her to do other things than transcribe. There's a difference between summarization and transcription.
Mhm.
I even had Jim O'Shaughnessy tell her that to help her, and that helped a little,
Well,
so,
hopefully this will help as well.
yeah, it will. Hearing you support her is super helpful.
Absolutely.
All right, we go into mandatory drug and alcohol testing for bus drivers and
We have to-
contracted
we have
carriers.
to-
Oh, we need a motion.
We need a motion
Sorry,
to
I got
move it.
excited.
I'll move that we move policy BEDG to this board for a first read.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. So now we are moving to AEA mandatory drug and alcohol testing.
This is, I think is literally just law.
The way I read it, it looked like we can't really change much because it's legal.
Yeah, and this is first read, but it needs to get, we can't let it slip.
Is this the one? What was that? No, this is the one.
So
One of them
the
was
bus-
marked as priority. I
Yeah.
forget which one it was though.
Well, I told Phyllis that it's optional to just hold off, because we've got so many to do.
Those board ones weren't optional?
I think they were kind of way overdue and they were done, so I just did them.
Okay.
You should see the list. You're looking at the subfolder, in the folder, a subset of the folder.
And
It was a long folder.
It looked,
I mean, there's a
based on
lot of,
like being a CDLA driver,
Yeah.
like pretty.
Pretty straight ahead.
yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
I'm fine with it too.
Would we like, motion to move it to the board?
so moved.
A second.
Thank you, Dawn. All in favor? So the next one is GBCD, background investigation and criminal records check.
I think that one's also a legal update. There's been a lot of updates on background records and legal checks.
I have no notes on this one. And without the minutes.
Okay.
Seems like a lot of it was all striked out.
Yeah.
The page numbers are off though, at the bottom.
Okay, I'll put a note about those.
Just because it says 5 of 4.
It's because the first 3 pages are struck out, and then when they come out, it will
Oh, okay.
level back out.
Okay,
Numbers.
that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Okay. My OCD.
Oh, it's good. That's what we're here for. One of the most important things that we do as a school board is adopt policies in the budget. Right, because my job to administer is to manage the policies. Which is why when you weren't kidding, like when it's in there, it says I have to do that, I try to catch all of those, right?
Mhm.
We have a checklist at the central office, and we try to make sure that we're tight.
Yeah, I called Phyllis the other day to ask her a question. She was like, let me check the calendars.
Yeah, oh,
What's
yeah,
happened?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, oh, she's all over it.
Oh, yeah, she was like, that's not supposed to be until November. I said, no, we did it late. She
Yeah,
doesn't miss a thing. She
right.
doesn't miss a thing.
I
It's
know,
great.
that's why I
She hit me
said,
first thing walking in today, Don.
I said, well, just check with him.
Yeah, I did. I told her it's technically supposed to be late September, but it's okay.
Got it.
I liked how they defined things. It's like, what is a covered person?
Right, right.
They're just going deeper.
There's
There's
a
a
lot of
lot more
clarity
going
here.
on with that.
Yeah.
There was also a change in the law where now we get more information than we used to.
Mhm.
And they're actually having a training in a couple of weeks, because it's kind of weird to be aware of what someone is accused of versus what they were actually convicted of. Are you getting that too?
I'm not in HR, so I don't get
They
it.
don't give it to you?
They don't give it to me, but they'll tell me like, if they have like, let's say.
Something you need to be aware of.
Something I need to be aware of, but like, so like we hire family partners, parents with lived experience, 9 times out of 10, they've had
Oh,
a
yeah.
like a BCF filing on them.
Yeah.
Not that it's ever been substantiated, but
Yeah.
they've had it, so that they have to go through that screening process. And I assume in New Hampshire, that's where the section B is.
Well, yeah, that's what happened is they started sending us not only convictions, but the information of accusations. And that's nothing I've ever seen before.
I think,
And I'm the only one that looks at them.
I think the accusations is actually important,
Yes,
because that's how people slip through the cracks. If they're not convicted, it doesn't mean.
right, you can see patterns.
Mhm.
I'm not complaining, it's just a lot, right? Like, to know about people that, it's just interesting.
Yeah, I didn't have any concerns. I noticed it seemed pretty legally, so. to speak.
Okay, great.
Dawn, Tammy, did you have any questions or concerns?
No.
Would we like to make a motion to move to first read?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
So I told Brian for the next 3 that if you had questions, we would table them and come to the next meeting.
Okay.
But I told him he's fine with it. He read them, the high school all read them. Some of the policies that didn't come forward, Heidi had questions, which are extensive, right? Super cool, she's great. But we wanted to slow those down, but these 3, they felt like they were okay with.
Okay.
But if you have like big technical questions, I don't want to get in the middle and say something wrong without Heidi and Brian.
Okay. So the first one is IHCD-LED Advanced Coursework Exams Placement.
And my understanding is that these are updates based on the new state regs.
Okay.
I thought it was STEAM now, not STEM.
It can be STEAM if there's art,
Okay,
and sometimes there's not an art component.
okay.
And you can see some of the questions on the right-hand side from Heidi. And it kind of shows you a little insight into our process, right? This goes on for quite a while.
Regarding paying fees,
Mhm.
fees where it says
Mhm.
district is not responsible.
Right, we're trying to be very careful.
We do pay some
Yes,
according to the notes here.
We pay for the AP.
we do, but
session.
it's not.
On the record?
Yeah, I think and Patty said it perfectly. Will not be versus shall not be.
Right.
Will
It's
not.
another option.
Right, it gives us the flexibility to pay or not.
Any questions on this policy?
Dawn, you want to take a little more time on this one? or-
No, I read it earlier,
Okay,
but
okay.
Would we like to hold it or move it?
I'm okay with moving it if there's, it's only for first read, so if there's.
Right, if there's more problems, we can always talk
Yeah.
about it sometimes at the board. Mr. Fitzpatrick, we'll ask you a lot of questions and then I have to call Will for the second meeting. Sorry.
All right, I'll make a motion to move IHCD-LEB for first read.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? The next policy is INBC. It's new policy, alternative credit options.
And this is rooted in the,
I was gonna say that policy that we just did,
Yeah.
one of the last meetings, yeah.
Yeah.
I had a feeling.
it's linked to other things and it's
Yeah.
based on the new rules from the
Yeah.
state.
Learn anywhere or something?
Yeah, the whole, everything that they're doing with
I like
competencies.
your note.
Oh, yes.
What did her note say? I didn't catch it yet.
Instead of dropout, we put withdrawn students.
Can we not use the word dropout?
No, dropouts are a technical term that
Okay.
actually get counted in our federal,
Oh, wow.
in our end of high school.
So you can't use the word withdrawn
You
student?
can't, because withdrawn means that you might come back, dropout means that you quit.
Okay.
It's just so negative.
It's totally negative, but it's part of our state reporting, so we have to follow
Okay,
I'm sorry, Heather.
I like literally cringed when I read it.
I know, I do too. I don't like the term either.
Okay. Well, as long as it's been stated that it's
Mhm.
not
Yep.
as being insensitive,
Wait, can I unhighlight it now?
yes.
Okay, because you not only marked it, but you highlighted it, so I'm assuming that was very emotional.
Yes.
No, I do. I always like to think of people as being on a progression, right? If you choose not to finish high school, that doesn't mean that you're done. Right? It means that you've made a decision for now.
I have people that have master's degrees that were high school dropouts.
Yep.
I went to school with a high school dropout. But at the time, the highest score recorded on the GBCD that applied.
Well,
Yeah,
You probably went on to be very successful.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
Very bright student.
Other than that, I had no issues.
Okay, thanks.
yeah. I don't have any notes on this one. I'll move this one for the first read.
One second.
This one is definitely priority required by law. See the
Well, This
top?
is the one that I saw.
Yeah.
So
It's a new policy.
the final one that we have today
Mhm.
is ILBAA. It's a new policy, high school graduation competencies.
And thank Dr. Haynes for working so hard to get these down from something like 6,000 to a handful.
Older competencies.
Yes, she has worked really hard to tighten things up this year.
Any questions or discussion?
When we go through and we set up our new grading, all of that stuff, that's when we will actually determine what mastery, like. is.
Yeah, we're gonna have to have a,
Definition of what mastery is
Right.
based on a grade or whatever, because I was like, well, what is that? Like,
I was-
you're gonna have to, has to be more conversation, this is too vague.
there are more policies to come
Okay.
with regard to this, but
All right,
Dawn is alluding to the massive can of worms that we are going to get into
Yeah.
about if a student, so Patty has started rolling out the board's directive around letter grades.
Mhm.
So at the end of this quarter, 7 through 12 will actually get a letter grade associated with their number so that parents can understand in more comfortable terms what that means.
Mhm.
And right now, the number scale that we're using is still the 4.0 because we feel like that's congruent with the educational practices that are outlined in here.
Mhm.
The part that's gonna get sticky and what we need to talk about as a team is if you're in a course for 8 weeks and there are competencies in that 8-week period that you have to master, what happens if you get a B and you don't master the competency?
You get a B without mastering the competency?
That's the
Yeah.
question. Theoretically, yes,
technically.
because the competencies, there might be 4 competencies. And so
did
you get
really
3
well
of
on one
them.
And it averages out.
Exactly, and then if you start averaging everything, you're really not doing competencies. The part about this whole thing that I like and believe in is saying to people that this is what's most important and you have to know it to move on.
Mhm.
The place where schools and high schools in particular fall down is what do you do about it when they don't get it?
Mhm.
Well, having them turn it all in the last week of school isn't doing something
I
about it.
mean, I know we'll talk more about it, but going back to the books that we had to read, like, I loved the creative ways that the schools that they highlighted dealt with the competencies. Like, I just I just feel like those types of things will really help our kids.
Right, and that's what we need to talk about next. And this is where, when we're not dealing with all this other crises that are going on right now, this is the work that we need to figure out. And if we do it right and we do it together, it'll bring everyone together. If we do it wrong and we tell people what to do, it'll divide people again. And I refuse to do that. I've seen too many districts divided over this topic. This is basic human right. You have a human right to learn in school, and we have to expect them to get to a certain level, and we have to support them if they don't. Right? I don't want to go back to the 80s where it is, I teach it, you sit and get it, and if you don't get it, it's not my problem. But I do want to go backward a little bit, that certain skills are critical to move forward. You have to have numeric awareness, division, addition, subtraction, multiplication, core sight words, right? A core reading level, a fundamental level of writing, which please don't even get me started because my own children's handwriting is atrocious.
Oh,
And their typing is fine, but there's a neurological connection to handwriting that is really important, even if it's not cursive. I would prefer cursive because it's an art form, but I'll
We
take.
asked our kids to sign laptop forms and they can't sign.
Yeah,
them.
my kid writes his name like a, anyway, all right, we gotta go to the other meeting, and I don't wanna keep Fremont.
So are we-
I
so
brought
what are we
donuts.
doing on this?
Are we holding this one?
Table this or?
Are we tabling this?
No, did you have, what's the?
No, I didn't know. what
I think we
were
should
doing.
move it, unless you have if you want Brian to come and talk
I
about it.
guess my question is this the overarching one and we'll have things that will break
Right.
down the
Yeah,
masters,
it
the
is.
competencies, like, because I agree with Don, it's very vague the way that's written, right?
That's right, it is, and we do need to define those things, and some of those things need to be defined in policy, and some need to be defined in handbooks. But I think in order to get complete buy-in from the board, we need to define it in policy. You know, in conjunction with
Right.
teachers, ISA needs to do that work. This is the nexus of ISA doing its work and then sending it to policy and then to the board.
Okay.
Right, it's like they call it in policy creation an iron triangle, right, where each group has to be on board, you know, connected before the whole thing will work.
So do we want to have it for a first read, or would we like to hold on and have Brian discuss it for next time?
Let's have Brian come to the next meeting.
Okay.
it's labeled as a priority, so I'll just note that.
Yep. I think
Required by law, so.
we'll be okay because we
Well,
have the
them come to the
policies.
next meeting and then if we get clarification on it, we can ask the board for first and second read.
Yeah.
If we're comfortable. if we're
Yeah, I don't know if that'll pass with questions that typically come up.
Right.
But that's okay if it doesn't, because I don't think that we're breaking the law in the sense that we already are so far ahead with competencies. Not worried about that. What I'm worried about is process and transparency. And changing things to balance out this, what feels like went this way, and have it come back to center, right? Okay,
Any future agenda items?
tons.
More policies.
I've got a whole pile of them to send you, I'll be in touch. Next agenda item is 10 more policies. I just timed us out, and we can do just about 10 in 1 hour.
Okay.
Some of these can send them out before the meeting, the better.
Thank you, I'm trying. There's so many to process. I'll try to do some next week for you.
So our next policy
That was very nice of you.
meeting
It could have been, like,
will
killed
be on November 3rd
sort of.
at 5 o'clock here in room 121.
Sounds good. Thanks.
This meeting is adjourned at